Right.
This is necessary, guys. Very necessary.
Yeah, I don't know if I like you down there.
Perfect timing.
There, I moved you.
Oh,
I'm
look
usually
at
down
you.
where I'm usually where Joe Sway is.
Yeah, John just figured that out.
I
Yo, I was
moved you.
thinking, do we need to give people like 30 seconds to get on before we jump into things, or
That's what I'm doing.
All right, just making sure.
We're riffing. I'm moving.
No, that's what we do. Yeah, no, that's what we do. I'm just,
Yeah, this is
I'm
like
moving
we can warm up here.
Can anyone hear Joe Sway? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, loud and clear.
Don't mess with me like that, John. I was like, wait, no one's answering me yet, so maybe he's like, what?
For anyone wondering what goes on behind the scenes, it was just us yelling at Joe Sway.
About 30 seconds. Come on, about 30 seconds.
Joe Sway!
I have no idea.
My whole house was like, why do you keep yelling Joe Sway?
I have no idea.
Connections in Brockton, you should tell them.
Where the show's going tonight. I usually ask beforehand, like, what are we talking about? But I'm just going in blind. I'm going in completely blind, folks. We're flying blind tonight. The NBA, luckily, it was a quiet day. There's not much to talk about anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So I know we'll just take some user comments, see what we got.
I feel like we triggered this thing with our group chat. I feel like we sort of.
I know what triggered this, and it wasn't the group chat.
We willed it into submission, into existence.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So we'll get started. Slow burn here.
We should be talking after a game tonight, but we can't seem to catch a Celtics game anymore.
Yeah, where do you want to start with this, John? We can go so many different places.
No, I mean, we're starting with the news, obviously. So by now, everybody knows the James Harden, ate his way out of Houston, or
the fat protest is over,
or did whatever it was he wanted to do to no longer play for the Rockets.
He did everything but.
He got his wish.
Just another case of an entitled NBA superstar getting whatever they want, whenever they want, just because they say so. And you have no choice. They have all the power, and Houston did what they could do. I guess we'll get into winners and losers, but the way it unfolded was pretty interesting, because it sounded, again, this is the second time Philly was used as like a prop. Philly was used to create
and abused
this idea that there was something going on that really wasn't happening, because it sounded like it was Simmons, and they were close on it. And Maxey.
They were.
And, and as soon as you guys texted, you're like, it's done. I was like, oh, wow, Simmons is gone. It was like, nope, it's a really complicated 4-team deal with a bunch of pieces moving all over the place. So that to me doesn't lead me to believe that, the Philly deal was on the table, and then, all of a sudden just they were like let's go do this really complicated 4-team deal. That means Philly was really never in. And
let's get Indy involved.
Yeah, they used Philly as leverage. Come on, that's exactly what this was.
Maybe, but this had to have been
much of that.
It had to have been going on for a long time.
Maybe they were flirting with the idea, but did you really think, with the way the Philadelphia 76ers started out, you really think that Doc Rivers wanted to sign up for that task, that tall task? I think Doc was thinking, well, wait a minute, I think I fixed this thing. I think I'm the cure here. And 10 games into it, we have a pretty good record. And the Celtics managed to have first place right now, but I don't think he was excited about coaching James Harden.
Well, the early returns out of Philly were that Doc was relieved because he likes Ben. Simmons was crazy relieved because he wanted nothing to do with going to Houston, and even Embiid was happy. So it seems like Philly's all set. Philly felt like we're all set with what we've got.
They like what they have right now.
And I listen. If I was the Rockets, I would have been so happy if my star player demands a trade, and all of a sudden Ben Simmons becomes available, and it sounded like maybe Maxey may or may not have been part of the deal. I mean, that to me would have been the luck of all lucks, timing wise, for Houston. Man, I mean, I know Houston got an absolute haul if you're into the whole draft pick thing. And I'm sure Bobby's going to tell us why it's so much better than what the Sixers could offer because of all the draft picks and everything like that. But for me, if you're Houston, you've got John Wall, you've got DeMarcus Cousins. I know he's not like a cornerstone piece anymore, but you've got Christian Wood. You've got some good players there. And if you were able to bring in Simmons and maybe another guy, you can be competitive. And that to me is, I think, what Houston would have rather wanted rather than to just do a full rebuild. I mean, man, imagine being a Rockets fan right now and what you're used to watching on offense and from that team. And now all of a sudden you really don't have much of anything at all to really look at least long term with Christian Wood.
Before we get into it, let's just break it down just so everybody's got it.
Yeah.
You're looking at basically the deal, and I want to just pull it up entirely to have the whole thing. But the Nets just get Harden, right?
Yep. Well,
That's basically it.
and so it wasn't technically a 4-team deal, but
Right. There was a second trade after the fact.
yeah. So the Pacers and
Right.
Rockets made a trade after.
They made a trade after the fact.
Okay.
But basically, the Nets get Harden in a second-round pick. The Rockets get Victor Oladipo from Indiana that got involved here. Exum. Is it pronounce it for me?
Kuruks.
Kuruks, right? Kuruks.
Kuruks. Excellent, bro. You said it right.
Yeah. 4 first-round picks
Harden.
and 4 pick swaps. Okay. Cavs get Jared Allen and Taurean Prince. I don't know
Levert's gone too.
And Levert goes to the Pacers,
Huge
which is I think
huge.
So what's funny is
My Pacers.
again, Pacers
Yeah, that's just
sneaky
fun.
get better there.
And they had been great. You look at them, you're probably talking about them being a top 3 team in the East already, and he probably fits in the mold there as well. So
Wait. Are you saying they could possibly be better than the Celtics? Wait, Jimmy,
wait a second. I thought I was going
people
crazy.
scream at you and call you a lunatic for saying such things? All right.
Joke
No, I had
anything about basketball. What am I doing on this show? What am I doing
Yes.
on any show? I'm an
Yo,
idiot.
Jimmy
I'm a hater.
Well, explain to me, Cleveland, I don't get it all. I mean, Cleveland's now got.
assets, baby.
Cleveland's got Drummond, Allen, Thonmaker, JaVale McGee. Like, what do you need?
Lot
All
of
of these
trees.
7
They got
Bolden.
big Celtics 2013 energy. The first year of Brad Stevens.
And Bolden. You know, they
Yeah,
got
right.
they got like 4
He'll be about
7-footers
as
on
good
them.
too.
The Cavaliers have some nice pieces into the future. They were, the question was whether they were going to be a sneaky Harden trade here, but instead they choose to just keep piling up those assets. And
So who's the winner here? I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna change my opinion 5 times on this trade. I probably.
it's Brooklyn.
But
Brooklyn.
I
No,
think
it's not.
It's gotta be Brooklyn.
I think both Brooklyn and Houston lost this trade. Believe it or not. I really do. I don't know that Brooklyn is market. I really do.
This
I think-
isn't the final team we're going to be looking at with Brooklyn either.
Okay, Bobby or Josue.
Brooklyn will add some bigs,
why did
you're not
Brooklyn
going
win?
at it with just Jordan.
Yeah.
Right. They'll add a big. And they actually have depth around these guys. I don't think they lost that many. The picks don't go far enough to matter for me.
They do.
they're not gonna-
They do. A
They
little
do
bit.
eventually, but only at the tail end. They're not
Yeah.
going to be bad enough that early.
I'm surprised there wasn't pick protections there, but
I'm not. I'm surprised Houston didn't say, can we push them all to 2 years from now? You know, can we start this all? Like, that's what I would have done. If I were Houston, I would have tried to start
I don't
this.
think you can do that. I think there's a limit on how far out it can go. I
I
think
would have
it's 7
started.
years.
The first one I want to trade for is your 2022 first rounder. Then I'll start the swaps and start to do it there. So I want to start catching you on the downswing. The first 2-3 years you can probably say are tossed. The pick swaps are useless, and the pick is going to be low.
Yeah.
So you're basically the Celtics now with a bunch of picks in the 20s. Like, who gives a
Yeah.
Well, that's what we said about that Celtics trade way back when, too. You never know. Durant and Irving have
But you
signed
never
for
know,
2
right.
years, and that's Harden's window as well. So all 3 of these guys could potentially be free agents after next year. And we'll see where it goes. We'll see how it fits. We know it's combustible.
I mean, it
for
blew up
sure.
on the Nets once. It blew up on the Nets once.
Oh, it's
I mean,
unfathomable that they would do the picks thing again, but
It's incredible that they're doing it again.
but it's a different brass there. These weren't the guys who did it before.
They're
Those
like-
guys got fired because of that.
They're
Let's
like,
talk
we got
about Brooklyn.
look at what we look like now, though. You know, we survived that. It was like, yeah, but it took you guys about 7 years, and it was pure luck if you really think about it that they were able to strike those 2 guys.
Geographical location.
how is it going to work, though? I mean, talent aside, how is this? How do you guys see this working when you get Kevin Garnett, James Harden reuniting? You know, the old middle school buddies meet again in high school, and you know, the high school buddy Kyrie Irving's is he now on the outside looking in, and is he pissed off? Does he even know this trade happened yet? I mean, has anyone told him? Is he on
That's the second layer.
planet
to
Earth
that.
right
yeah.
now?
Somebody
And-
from Sex and the City told him.
Yeah,
Biggest
exactly.
reason- I think that's the reason why
I think he's doing a Zoom dinner party with Kim Cattrall tonight, so she might tell him.
I mean, I saw a
They
report.
won this trade, I think, because if you
I
think
saw a
about it,
report.
all Kyrie's fault at the end of the day if he doesn't, commit to the team or decides that he just wants to come and go as he please. You have someone like James Harden to put alongside Kevin Durant, and that puts them in the Eastern Conference Finals. It's almost like regardless of what Kyrie does, it's like, okay, well, at least I have my guy here, and we have at least 2 years at this.
So my question is, how much of this is Kyrie protection in terms of like, are they legit worried? I don't know. That's what I don't get how it works if all three of them are there together. There's only one ball, like Jimmy said earlier. Like, and the team's got massive defensive issues now. You're forcing
That's
Jordan.
my worry. Yeah,
you're forcing Jordan to play, and he's brutal. Jordan's been done. Jordan should have retired 4 years ago, not signed as part of a super team, three-way because he's pals with these guys 2 years ago. He's a disaster. So the Allen hurts them. You've lost the bench depth in LeVert there. You've lost Dinwiddie already. So like, I don't care. It's a superstar league. 3 superstars. We saw what the Lakers did. The 3 players on the Nets are better than the Lakers' best 3 players last year, and they easily won the title. But it's
they're
just
different.
It's a weird fit of players, right?
It's a different fit of positions. It's a different fit of where they are in their careers
and type of players, ball dominant players,
and most of all, different personalities. I mean, you might have the 2 most disgruntled NBA players in the league now on the same team. I mean, and then you've got Kevin Durant, who, he's at any given point, this guy's got 4 or 5 Twitter accounts going. I mean, I don't know what's going on with the Nets. If you can, I mean, one of the funniest tweets I saw was that meme of the person throwing like the food in the grease fire and it just blowing up. I mean, that was so funny to me because and they were like, oh, this is like the Nets adding James Harden to the mix. I mean, you've got a guy in Kyrie Irving where literally nobody knows what's going on with him. And now you're bringing in, one of the most, ball dominant, scoring guys in the league and asking him to just fit with one of the all-time best players in Kevin Durant. So how is this going to just seamlessly happen? Like no one's practicing. No one's even allowed to hang out together. I mean, how are we expecting these guys to gel? Don't compare this to the Celtics from 2007. Just please don't. I mean, those situations are completely different, and we always go back to comparing it to that when players join each other, but you just can't. Every team and personality is a different fit, and to me, it's just because the Nets acquired Harden, not denying his talent. I just don't know how they're all going to fit together.
You bring up a good point about the chemistry, the situation at hand, the practice. I mean, who knows? The league could be done in a week. Who knows? Like, we don't even know
allowed
that
to practice
it. Yeah. So there's a lot of things circling around this. But if I'm just looking at it from an X's and O's standpoint, once these guys get together, if this is a team they're throwing on the court, I look at 3 guys that are capable of making this work, basketball-wise. We've seen, and I said this. They're
the 3 biggest donkeys on the planet, though, huh? This is such an easy team to root against.
Their talent's through the roof, though. When it comes to offense.
Through the roof, but holy crap, is this the least likable team ever assembled?
Celtics fans,
it's totally up there.
For Celtics fans, it's going to be as easy as it gets.
These guys are brutal.
2008
KD
Celtics
whining every second from going to Golden State all the way down, and nobody loves me, and screw you, and and his 12 burner accounts, and friggin' Kyrie, the most. Whatever. I don't even want to talk about Kyrie. I don't want to waste a breath on him. And then Harden is just. I mean, this was disgraceful the way he shot himself out of here with Houston, showing up throwing his teammates under the
fat protest, and it worked.
And just a brutal guy to watch play. I can't stand it. I can't stand this brand of basketball. Yeah. I mean, I love watching Kyrie play, truthfully, but I can't stand Harden ball.
Well, they were a beautiful team to watch early this year, and part of that is that Kyrie committed to that off-ball role to some degree. He was getting off the ball, cutting back line. They were doing some good. They were doing some baseline pick and roll work there. There's just a lot of pretty good sets out of that D'Antoni offense and some of the good coaches that they've assembled around Steve Nash here. Now, how does Harden fit into it? There's a lot of talk about him moving off the ball, which he hasn't done since Oklahoma City. I've argued that he's capable of it, but I think the way this actually works out is Durant playing a center type role, having him play kind of like a Dirk pick and pop, pick and roll game, play off Harden's gravity on the ball.
That's wasting Durant, though. You
run
really
the
want to
floor.
toss Durant at the 5? Really?
That's not a waste if he's the best of all time at that position.
That's sort of the foregone conclusion for the next stage of his career, right? I mean, not to say that he's approaching that stage, but I mean, he's going to have to adapt a bit when he gets a bit older. So why not adapt now? Yeah, I'm with Bobby.
Who's the best player of these three right now?
Durant. No question.
Yeah.
No question.
Durant.
I mean, at Harden's current weight, it's Durant.
Yeah, but we don't know what Harden
pound
looks
for
like
pound. I don't know.
next to Durant.
See, that might be the wrong question. The question might be, who's the best to run this offense?
That is the wrong question.
Who's the best to run this offense would actually be the right question.
Well, Kyrie needs to show up before you can run anything through him. I mean, the guy's literally.
Yeah, I mean that's the question. But I'm just talking if all these guys are here, if everything's in place. I can't predict any of the other stuff.
Watch, somebody just said this. I was thinking of this earlier.
Yeah.
No.
Seriously.
Not even close.
I know, I'm kidding.
Kyrie was killing it. I mean, we have questions now, but on the court, there's no question.
Bobby doesn't get jokes.
Thunder reunion.
It's like that will never happen.
People forget Jeff Green's actually on this next team too. He was in Oklahoma City with Durant and Harden. So I mean, really, who would have thought all these years later these guys are bringing the band back together?
Roy wings.
I would have been, put it this way, I would have been concerned more long term if Harden ends up in the Sixers. Maybe that works out for them. I just don't know if it's going to work out just because of the personalities and the talent that already exists in Brooklyn. I mean, I feel like you already had it. Let's just say Kyrie comes back and he is Kyrie Irving of old, right? I mean, you've got a really, really talented team there. Now, maybe they know something about Kyrie that we don't, like you said, John. You've got an insurance plan in place now. But still, what do you do with Kyrie? I mean, his value is who's going to trade for Kyrie right now? I mean, you don't know what you're getting at this point.
But we haven't even.
I think the better question is what Kemba going to look like when he comes back for the Celtics? How does this team match up against the Nets? I don't know, guys. I think the team that we saw them face in the beginning of the season, I think they're a bit scarier in terms of for matchup purposes against the Celtics. But again, that's the big if for the Celtics is Kemba. What's
Here's
Kemba?
The thing. One thing that I saw today, somebody tweeted, it was a report that Kyrie was very upset that he was not included in the decision to hire Steve Nash.
Do we know if that was real? I didn't see anything on that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's real, but let's assume
the guy works for SNY. That's in New York.
For the sake of argument, based on what we know about Kyrie Irving, based on the fact that he has feelings for just about everything, let's assume that he had some feelings. And we already heard his comments about, we don't even really have a coach this year. We're all kind of coaches. Let's assume that he wasn't thrilled. How thrilled do you think he will be, assuming he had nothing to do with the Nets bringing Harden to Brooklyn? How is he going to react when this guy, if he does return and when he does return, how is his role different? And how is he going to be okay with that? How does Durant? I also wonder, and I would expect that Durant was probably asked about this, so I'm led to believe that Durant is cool with Harden coming onto the team. I don't think they make this trade without running it by Durant. I don't.
I wonder if they told Nash.
Nash we know doesn't hear anything. He'll hear it from somebody else.
Yeah, I wonder who has more power in that locker room, Joe Harris or Steve Nash. That's a real question there. It's a complicated situation for sure, but I look at the talent there, and I know I've been them far 5-6 start. The defense has just been a mess, and Irving is popped off already. But I think the talent's there. I think they're going to be able to make it work. It might not be pristine the way I envision it possibly being. This could just be a LeBron, Kyrie, we're all trading off on the ball type of thing. But we've seen teams that don't get along the best make the finals at the very least. And we've seen teams that don't look the best schematically just get by on talent.
Can we get into Kyrie's head for a minute? Okay. Now, forget. I'm not even talking about the walking away.
We couldn't even try.
I'm not going to bother with what he walked away for. Again, I'm not giving him the benefit of the doubt, but I also don't care. Like, it's not.
Sure. I'm at that point too.
Let's just get into, if you're Kyrie, okay, just the arc of his life, okay? He plays with the most selfless player of all time, who tries to make his teammates better, and sure, maybe draws some attention to himself. But I mean, who doesn't want to play with LeBron James? Okay, you win a title, and what does Kyrie want to do? Get me the F out of here. I don't want to play with this guy. So he comes to Boston to be the man with younger kids, and he F's that up, and he's like, no, pairing with a superstar is what I want to do. It's going to be me and my boy, and we're going to be co-equals, and we're going to go somewhere else, and we're going to make it our thing. And he gets there, plays 2 games, goes on a friggin' walkabout, disappears off the face of the earth, and before he resurfaces again, they friggin' trade for Harden, and now he's the third wheel on this team. He's the third guy.
Which is why we knew he wanted no part of this deal.
Dude, but think about it. I mean,
we knew he didn't want
maybe that's less time on the court for him, which appears to be what he wants anyways. I don't know if this guy.
Oh my God.
I don't know. I really don't. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you say let's get into Kyrie's head. I literally cannot get in his head. I mean, he was that real? He was on a Zoom call during that
for like an AG candidate, progressive AG candidate in New York, hosted by Cynthia Nixon from Sex and the City, who ran for mayor.
Oh, all right. So that's where that reference came from.
That's what it was. Cynthia Nixon hosted it. She's the one who ran against de Blasio for mayor, who was on Sex and the City, and she hosted something for some progressive political.
That's modern politics.
And Kyrie's just sitting there like,
yeah.
Why was that? You can absolutely do that. Who cares that he did that? Playing basketball or not playing basketball?
The perfect comparison.
That's fine on its own.
The perfect comparison was a kid who skipped school, is out running around town. Or college is probably more preferred here. You're on campus. All of a sudden, you walk by, you skip this professor's class early in the day. They see you, and you're just like, oh, they got me.
Somebody tweeted that Kyrie's trying to play basketball remotely. Like so true though. I mean, he's like, he wants to be. He wants to be like signed by, he wants all his money and signed by the Nets and be on the Nets, but he doesn't actually want to show up and play the game.
The party's the problem. Like,
So that was my next point.
Yeah.
Go on.
So the party's the problem. The Sex and the City AG thing, like whatever.
Who cares
People
about
politically engaged. Who cares?
It was during the game. Of course, that's important.
Well, he was out as of like 2 days earlier. So like, it's not like
I don't even know why he's out. First of all, but at least you should be logged on to the game. These are your teammates that are taking the court because you're out doing whatever, God knows what, and you're on a Zoom call. Guess what? You could probably record the Zoom call, watch your teammates, watch the game, be logged in. You want to be this know-it-all player and coach, and you're out there on Zoom calls while your teammates taking the court without you. And for why, we don't even know, so we won't get into why. But anyways, Bob, go on.
I think you have a point there. I think you do. For me, if they knew 2 days earlier, and this goes back to the first game that he missed, them not knowing, that's the real problem here. Once it was announced, once it was figured out, that doesn't become as big of a problem, whether it was at 7:30 or 6:30. If it was at 6:30, would have mattered. The problem was he was in a club, no mask, doing the Dougie, and pretty much matching what James Harden absolutely got eviscerated for to begin this year. Being in the club, especially during the height of this COVID spread, now facing a quarantine, now going to miss more time, probably 3 more games with this team from a quarantine that he'll be subject to. That's inexcusable. And any player, and I've said this, that's in a club, in a bar this year, should be suspended 10 to 20 games. Serious suspension. Oh no! I mean, we're not going to have a.
Bob was a lot of fun at parties.
We're not going to have a season if this is what players are allowed to do.
I would cut off their hands.
What did they find Harden in the end? Like $10,000 or $40,000, something like that? Like, this has to be a discernible punishment for players that do something like that, because we're not going to have a season if players aren't following protocol. I know they're talking about banning high fives and post-game conversations. That's not as big of a problem as a guy being in the club without a mask. That was brutal. He deserved all the criticism he got for that. Forget the context of whether he's in or out. If he was on the court playing right now too, it'd be just as bad. That was just inexcusable, and I ripped Harden the same way for that. Nobody can be in a bar this year. No one can be in a club this year. Look, if you do, there's going to be a huge punishment.
A lot of them
you sound like a guy who's never been to a party.
You're the guy who's worried about him being on Zoom.
I'm just kidding. No, what you're saying is 100% true. Super selfish. I mean, super
I think the biggest thing is leaving the team and not telling his friggin' coach. Like, Just
Yeah,
watch
man.
this whole, like, again, this is the whole, and again, we're doing it. We said we weren't going to do it, but like this whole duality, bipolar nature of his personality, like he gives $1.5 million to the WNBA and donates a ton of money to different charities. And then he calls the media pawns and doesn't call his coach to tell him he's not going to play. Like you respect people or you don't respect people.
It comes one after another too. It's back and forth.
I'm really cerebral, but I'm not really ruling out the fact that the earth may be flat. Like he's a constant contradiction. So it's really hard to take anything seriously because some of the stuff he does is impactful and matters. And he might be thinking of things deeply, but then he also does the dumbest shit that's so hypocritical that it almost washes away everything else. And then he's like, you guys don't get it. You just like to talk about stuff. I know what's real. And then like, here we are with this. It's so tired. It's such a tired thing.
But see, that's the thing. That's why they had to get someone like Harden because Durant wants to get another title. Durant wants to prove that he can do this again. And I think it means a lot to him. And those conversations that are reported between him and Harden, there's much truth of that. They were talking about getting together in Brooklyn. Kyrie didn't want any part of that. And then
I want to know what all of these guys think right now.
With the recent report saying that these two aren't even, that they're a bit distant, that they're saying out of Brooklyn, that Durant and Kyrie, because Durant must be thinking to himself, like, are you with us or are you not? Like pick one, And if you're not with us, then what did we sign up for? What changed in the past, 6 weeks when they looked like they were, when Bobby and, not to point out Bobby, but everyone was saying that this team could go to the finals, no question, or win it all. Give the Lakers a run for their money.
They still could. I don't ultimately think this is going to be something that derails the team. I can't get inside Durant's head, but he didn't seem to care all that much when they asked him at the presser. He probably knows why he's away, and they have it figured out on their own. We know that Kyrie's more in the loop with Durant than Steve Nash. I don't know if that's
not
because
good.
that was the preferred choice, but hey, this is
using this nickname regularly.
This is ultimately what they signed up for, though. Like
before the season started, I'm like, that's perfect. Yes, that's what he's been.
Kanye
Irving is on point right there.
Kanye Irving is good.
That is the definitive difference between this team. I still think the Lakers are the favorite to win the title over this team if they potentially comes down to that, because they have a real coach who's actually scheming, who's actually involved and making things happen there. Like Frank Vogel didn't get enough credit for what the Lakers did last year. D'Antoni is obviously the X's and O's guy here, but Vogel seemed to have a bigger voice in the room, a bigger, leadership position among the players out there. And they built a great committed defense off of that. So the biggest question here in Brooklyn still, I don't care about Irving in the club. I don't care about the offense. The offense is going to figure it out. Is this team going to defend? That's what it comes down to, and they haven't yet.
So the Lakers are completely different than the Nets. The Lakers are a team. They have structure. They have leadership. Say what you want about LeBron James, but you won't find a better leader in the NBA than LeBron James on the court or off the court, in my opinion, in the last 15 years or whatever. I mean, however many years you want to go back. Recent, it's LeBron James for me. And you talked about the coaching. They have everything it takes to win a championship. The Nets, all they have is talent. They have no structure. They have no leadership. They have no coaching because their players don't even communicate with their coaches. And that's really bad because you guys have all been on teams. Well, Joe, maybe not just Way, but you guys have all been on sports teams growing up. And
really, I'm the one.
You want to have a good relationship with your coach. Doc, the reason why players love Doc Rivers is because he's almost like a father figure to a lot of these guys. So I'm not saying that Steve Nash needs to be every player's father or any coach needs to be every player's father or anything like that. I'm just saying you want to have that type of relationship. You want to be close to your coaches. And it's clear that if Kyrie Irving just bolts and doesn't even have the courtesy to say, hey, coach, I can't play tonight. I'm just not feeling it or something came up. I mean, that really tells you a lot about where this team is right now.
Well, I mean, what are you talking about, Jimmy, here, ultimately? Like, could that be something that...
By far the most fans in the chat, by the way, today, by far.
I've been on, over a week now? It's been a while.
By far the most fans.
I'm getting a lot of hate for the background. I mean, Joe
Sway went to the Celtics game. He was going to be reporting live, and then they canceled it. He was the first, like, first day of school. He's the first media member there, and they're like, you got to go.
Bro, 0 for 2, man. They were trying to kick me out of there. I'm like, but can I just... all right.
That's like history. That's like some history that you're a part of, though. You got some history there.
Yeah.
So, Jimmy.
Yeah, Bobby, what are you saying? Go ahead.
What are we talking about here ultimately, though? Like, could that be something that limits them from winning a championship? Certainly.
Yes. Especially this year. Yes. There's no structure. There's nothing.
I don't think
Kyrie's gone for the next 2 weeks at least, right? Because
and you know what's really
at the very
important
least because of COVID.
Your starting point guard.
Yeah.
It is. I want to shout out my. I still got my Christmas stuff up a little bit. Christmas card.
My tree down, but I moved the shot anyway.
I'm thinking of their competition in the East, though. I still consider them the favorite in the East. I like what Philly's
They're only
done
going to
so
beat
far.
themselves. They're only going to beat
Yeah.
themselves. They're better
Look,
than
we
they're
don't-
talented than everybody.
That's the best thing. This is either going to be a friggin' cakewalk to the finals, which it very well could be,
Yeah.
or a hot mess. So
Right.
that's what's going to be fun here. But rooting for the hot mess is fun. You want this not to work. Nobody wants the 3 superstar team to work, especially these 3 superstars. So this is what you get to see, and then you get to say, "See, they couldn't mesh together." But I mean,
Right.
these are three weird dudes.
Yeah, I think Kyrie is just so much more important.
To say
are.
the least.
Three of them.
These are 3 weird dudes. It's going to be interesting.
I just think Kyrie can I know it's cliche, but it's like he can make or break this thing in a huge way. And it's just like, if he can only, I don't know, be a little more transparent with the club or with the players. I don't know. Maybe it's just Durant he's being transparent. Maybe Durant has been the whisperer for the rest of the organization. Maybe he's the one telling everyone what's going on in Kyrie's world right now. But hey, it's a long season. We'll see. I mean, we don't even know if the suspended season is going to happen one way or another. I mean, we may be talking about seeing this thing pan out months from now, and it'll be plenty of time for these guys to figure this out. But I mean,
will.
three of them, all this talent, they should be able to figure this out. If they don't get to the NBA Finals, it's a bust and a half, and that could definitely happen.
I will say it'll be interesting to see who they bring in. They send out 3 players in this deal, only bring 1 back in, so that opens 2 roster spots. They could make a trade here as
Now
well.
you're going to get it'd be frustrating,
I would
Bobby.
expect.
Buyout time, every good name out there, Brooklyn's going to get every one of them.
Straight
You know,
from Brooklyn.
always happens. You know,
I'll be
They'll all
interested to
get
see what they can.
Look at their last year.
It's like, oh, I just want a ring. I'll take my $5 million and go there. Every one of them.
I'm interested to see what they get for Dinwiddie too. Surprised he wasn't in this package. Surprised Houston didn't push for him. That's a great player when he comes back next year. He'll be at a higher price tag because you got to sign him. But that's a guy who, despite being injured, has value around the league. There would be plenty of teams that would want to acquire him just to pay him next year and have that leg up with the bird rights. For some reason or another, his bird rights transfer when they trade him. So that's another guy that they could trade and get something for. They're going to have to fill out this roster. They're a little thin inside. Jordan can't get done alone, as John said. And they're going to need, probably another guard when they go small. Can Durant play center for those kind of minutes? Like, there are a ton of questions here, Jimmy. I'm not going to, completely throw away the fact that this team could go wrong. But the talent is unmatched.
Let's get to what it means for the Celtics.
Yeah, I'm done with the Nets tonight.
Okay, done with them. Done.
Until next show.
Yeah, done with them. No, but for real, what's the trickle down here, okay? Because immediately you see 4 teams making trades and you're like, couldn't we have gotten in the mix there somehow? Figuring out, people are moving. That means they're either desperate or they're clearing out players or clearing out. And this is where the Celtics want to be. They want to be there when the things start falling, in their direction. How does this change things? Now, Oladipo, now in Houston, is he a long-term guy there? Is he a TPE sort of player if Houston wants to get that off the books and have the money and continue to get younger? Or do they hope that he can regain his superstar form? They sign him long-term. I don't really know. Cleveland has a mess of big men. Now you're seeing a lot of talk about Drummond. I don't know why the Celtics would ever want to do that, but 8 people put it in the chat, and I've seen it on Twitter a bit.
We've been talking about
linked.
Drummond for 8 years.
Yeah, he's been linked to the Celtics since he was drafted, I think. But
Since draft day, yeah, for real.
Yeah. So does the movement of these players to wherever they are, is PJ Tucker, if Houston's cleaning out, he's a guy we've talked about. Someone just put that in the chat. Does that do anything? Is there anything out there off of this trade that you guys see?
Bobby's a Tucker guy.
Makes things available. Is Houston now, Gordon, is he more possible? Or are they trying to hold on to some of those pieces? I don't know. That's what I'm kind of interested in now. What's the fallout and how might it impact the Celtics?
So if Houston's stacking up picks and it just ultimately becomes a player for a player thing, I don't know why you wouldn't go after Tucker. The Celtics have no reason to draft players for years to come with the amount of young players that are in here. The question would be, who would you trade? I guess it would come down to Semi Ojeleye or probably Javonte Green, one of those two. and just kind of do a player pick swap. I don't know if you get to trade 1 first rounder or 2, but PJ Tucker would fit right in with this roster, allow them to play a smaller 4 who can shoot rather than Grant Williams. Maybe Grant would be the guy that you would give up in that trade possibly if they want a player of value. I've wanted him for a long time in Boston. Now, is the production the same as it was 2 years ago? No, but the guy still defends like crazy. He could change the image of your defense. You guys know how much the Celtics defense to start this year is driving me nuts. So that guy has immense value. I'm still upset that the Celtics didn't acquire him in 2017 when the Raptors went out and got him. I'm all in on him.
Who is this?
Yeah, I'm with
Tucker?
you.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We were
He was
talking
like,
to him
I
in the
stopped
offseason.
listening. Who?
Yeah. Every time he starts talking about defense, I nod off. But no, I think offseason, Bob.
PJ Tucker, though, that's a good
Tucker
one.
would be a nice addition somehow, but yeah, I don't know what it would take.
It's gonna be a cheap price. I wouldn't give up a lot for him.
Gordon Hayward is headed to the tunnel.
Oh,
injured?
God.
No.
Yeah.
No, his wife's in labor again.
Oh wow. They're saying
somewhere. I knew it.
They're saying left hip or thigh. So but whatever.
Unreal.
That's too bad. Anyways.
Did you guys see that post game interview? Did anyone see that as a shot towards the Celtics? I didn't see it that way. He was saying how fun the offense is and how it's everyone gets their own opportunity. Everyone gets it's sort of an equal opportunity kind of offense. And I don't know. So I read an article that someone thought that they took that as a shot towards the Celtics.
The shot's been made. I mean, the reason for him leaving was essentially a shot. I don't know if you take it as a shot that he couldn't be number 1 here, but I mean that's been pretty evident for a while that's why he left, and he's doing his thing down there. Hopefully, it's not a big thing. I've enjoyed watching that team for sure.
Yeah, I mean, look, whether it's a shot, it's at least a subtweet. It was this way here. Now
he was thinking it.
Now it's here. Right. He basically said it.
Contrast. Yeah, he's acknowledging the contrast.
He said it. I moved for opportunity. I wanted to be. I mean, he basically said, "Look, I want to be the man." I was the 3rd wing on this team. And I actually didn't even view it as shots. It was like you got two of the best up and coming wings in basketball. I'm playing 3rd fiddle on this team. I'm in my prime. I want to go be prime Gordon.
Yeah. Right.
I don't begrudge. It's honest. I actually didn't even view it as a shot. It's just basically like
the truth.
John's these guys are really freaking good, and I'm playing behind them there, and I'm still really good. I want the world to know I'm good. I want to make my mark.
He can work on education reform too down there.
Dang, Charlotte needs.
Charlotte's from the hip. He's just pulling. Damn. Okay, Bobby. I like it.
I know we moved on from like the Rockets Nets, but we were just talking about Easter Glass. Yeah, we were just talking about Gordon's comments, but man, those comments from DeMarcus Cousins and John Wall today, you don't see that often. I mean, as crazy as the NBA is, you don't see players go after players publicly like that.
On star crime like that.
Yeah, that's when you know it was.
I came here for John Wall was the quote. Wow. Yeah,
that was tough. I mean, man, talk about a crazy locker room that must have been, or not even. I don't even know if these guys are allowed. I don't even know if there's that much like team unity going on this year. I don't even know what players are allowed to do with each other, at least in the arena. So I don't even know if teams are allowed to be that close. But certainly the Rockets were not. That's one thing we know.
It's a good point, Jimmy, on the closeness. Like, will there be time for Harden to even integrate with these guys? Practice is certainly non-existent. And then we think about postponements if it comes to that with them. Tyler Johnson has a contact tracing thing going on there in Brooklyn right now as well. I don't think there's a case in Brooklyn. There were 16 cases this last week. I don't think Brooklyn was one of them. But if you have a stoppage in Brooklyn, that can kind of hurt your development there. So there are a lot of things floating around, and they do get a little thinner here. Let's make no mistake, Jared Allen and the other guy there were huge losses. LeVert, yeah, like those were big time players in their rotation.
They already lost Dinwiddie.
Yeah, the things started chipping away early on the chair.
Not
all of it. I still like.
Man, I know we joked about it at the top of the show, but seriously, I don't know. I mean, LeVert could really pop off.
The East is really good right now.
His offense could really.
Brogdon.
Yeah, exactly. Playing off of Brogdon, that could really push him up to another plateau. 22 plus point score. Who knows? I mean, between him and Sabonis, that could be the next up and coming duo that's going to be rivaled against Tatum and Brown.
What's up with Kemba? Is he gonna play or what? Or if the Celtics ever play again, will he be on the court?
The Celtics are never going to play again.
I think
The
there's
show
a
will
decent chance they play
dissolve.
Friday. Now, does
Will
the
Kemba
league?
play?
Does the? I don't think Kemba's going to play Friday. He didn't practice yet, so I don't know how he would be ready to play. We might be another week out on Kemba. I do think the Celtics though could be
We don't know
ready
But yeah,
to. Well, the plan was to ramp him up in practice for a week, and have him
They
at
don't
shoot around and all that stuff. Yeah, they didn't practice all week, so he's at least 4 days out if that's the amount of practices he would need. So
Mhm.
this is
they-
entirely speculative.
they could play,
Yeah.
they could play on Friday. I think they
That's
could
also speculative.
if
But the
Grant
fact
Who do they have
that
Friday?
called it yet, they called the other games early. They knew it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
the
true.
Magic are on Friday. I believe it's in Boston.
But I don't know. I thought it depends if you count Friday as a day. It's that whole is today a day?
The end of the day or the beginning of the day? Yeah.
If it's 7 days and Friday counted as day one, then they're not eligible. Then they are eligible. But if all of those guys went into the protocol on Friday. If day one is Saturday, then they're not eligible. So
Yeah.
I'm still not sure because then it'd be
Friday to
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday's the 7th day. They got to clear Friday to be able.
Well, their
to
exposure would have been Friday in that game. Yeah.
so Friday to Friday is actually 8 days.
Yeah, it's that whole. Is today a day?
People came.
Wait, how many days are in a week?
Right.
Uh,
Really only 2 days. That
gonna
was,
be-
that was a Seinfeld bit.
it's going to be that wacky skeleton lineup on Friday, though. Is that still true, or some questionable guys like?
No, Tristan and Grant
Yep. They were the guys who went in early.
were eligible to return.
Okay.
So that would have put them over the 8 threshold.
Damn, that means less Taco. I was hoping to see more Taco.
But you'd still be screwed because your wings, you still have no Ojale, no Javante, no Jalen, no Tatum, which means you have to see Nesmith. That's the one downside to the games being canceled is they had no choice but to play him 30-something minutes a game because they did not have another wing. It was 5 guards and a couple of bigs. That was it, It was Pritchard, Smart. They had Waters. Half of their team was under the 6'2" and shorter.
So yeah,
I mean,
if we're gonna put this in perspective, like where they're at right now, Grant and Tristan went into the protocol on Thursday.
Oh, it was Thursday. Then they should be cleared by Friday.
Yeah, and then Semi, Jalen, and Green's exposure was on Friday during the game against the Wizards. So that would be their retrospective day. If they didn't test positive, there's a chance that their 7th day could be Saturday this week, off that Friday. So Grant, Tristan, if they didn't test negative, if they've continued to test negative, come out of this program after 7 days. Same goes for the other ones who quarantined. The only positives we know of are Rob and Tatum. So Rob's would be up 10 days after Wednesday, which would be sometime this weekend. And then Tatum's would be 10 days after Friday, which would be after this weekend. So if they test negative at some point, those could be as much as 2 weeks for the positive guys. So they could get enough players back. The league wants teams playing with 8 guys. The Sixers actually had to do it with 7 guys last weekend when they had injuries going on. The league actually nailed them because they think they made up the Simmons injury. But they don't want to postpone games. And at this point, they've postponed 7, including these 3 Celtics games. And we have this question, do you just keep postponing games, keep making the spread more? Because it seems like a quarantine at least spread from Tatum to Beal. And then the Wizards had positive cases after that. They had played the Suns, who are now quarantined. And you have an Atlanta game. So, there's evidence here that teams playing each other is spreading this thing because the testing's behind.
Well, it's also just what they're determining is a close contact. You play a game and they don't call it a close contact, but you shake hands and you hug a guy after the game and it's close contact, or you sit on the bench with them for a while. So they're just kind of guessing. They've decided that on-court contact does not constitute close contact.
And that's in doubt now, too. The Athletic.
And now I just read the Athletic article, which is they don't know that that's the case. So, right.
And if that's the case, it's bubble. It's bubble time.
Right. It's shut it down and bubble up,
Which
come up with regional bubbles and then come up with a playoff bubble.
I feel like they they sort of thought that they knew that was going to happen, but I think they were hoping that it would happen like 2 months from now, or at least that they would have the threat of having to go into a bubble where it's like, okay, well, we're inching towards the playoffs. This is more like the playoff bubble, and 22 teams, because they already had the in-tournament in place, and yeah. So it's happening.
Sekou Smith and for NBA TV was on with Sherrod Blakely on the A-List podcast.
Those guys nailed Harden.
Great podcast, great guest. That guy's terrific. But he thought his full, and I agreed with it because I was listening at the time when they were recording. I think you tough it out as best you can, do what the NFL did, and just try to survive. And then, live with imperfections and cancellations if you have to along the way, and so be it. And try to make it up where you can, and then just make it a playoff bubble, and that
has to be that
playoff bubble. Right.
Just subject the 16 teams to a playoff bubble. Try to get there if you can. And that makes the most sense if you can make it there, because look, at the end of the day, everyone's freaking out at the NBA for what they're doing, not doing here. But I mean, how are they different than the rest of the world? The rest of the world's going about their business as well, for the most part, trying to put some safety protocols in place, wear masks, do things, restaurants at 20% capacity, XYZ, and then just kind of live with this and deal with it. So that's kind of where they are. If they're going to keep doing it, they're going to take this risk on and go. I mean, everything in the world is safer in a bubble, but the entire world can't go in one. So you either don't play or play with risk, and that's kind of where you're stuck right now. I personally think, and again, I don't know, I get it. It's boring. You leave your family and this and that. If I'm 25 years old and they say you got to go play in a bubble for 6 months because that's your job, I would just do it. I wouldn't love it, but I would do it. What's different between being deployed overseas or working somewhere where you're constantly having to travel or XYZ and be away from people? Sometimes that's just what the job calls for. So I didn't think it was ridiculous to play a whole season in a bubble. I might have tried a 60 gamer and keep it really tight. Maybe take a break, let people go home, come back for playoffs. I don't know the best solution, but at this point they're in it. I don't see any way out until you get to the playoffs, and then maybe you can bubble it up again.
Yeah.
The difference is these are players who are entitled, and some of them are very entitled. Some of them are very rich.
They're young and they want to have
certainly
fun.
not.
They want to live their lives.
Not of the same mindset of the troops. So I think that they're going into with a different mentality there. But you're right that there's a lot of people in this world that would go live in a Disney resort for 6 months and get paid millions of dollars to do it and play basketball. And if they have to Zoom in with their family members from time to time, so be it. Like you said, John, a lot of people are making sacrifices right now. So if that's what it takes, then that's what it takes. And guess what? They can also opt out. No one's forcing them to go, right? So we saw that happen last year. Some players opted out, and that was their decision. And I'm sure that they're happy with their decision that they made. And the ones who went to the bubble, I think they all enjoyed, or I don't want to speak for everybody, but I imagine it was a success. It looked like a lot of them were having a good time in there, and it was from a product standpoint for the fans, it was a blast. I mean, it was some of the best basketball we've seen. So we already know that it works. So
I think,
one difference.
Commenters can tell us this, but there's something detrimental.
Hear Bobby, can you?
I can hear Bobby.
Yeah. So there's something detrimental to not having games for a week, like the Celtics just did, and then the whole league and different teams getting taken out of action for multiple days. Like, fans just look at that, like I know I kind of and just said, screw this, like this isn't going to work. We're tuning out. Like, the Celtics season isn't even happening for as much as we're concerned, and that's the big loss right now to these shutdowns. Could you have shut down when the Celtics first had this issue about a week ago for a week, cleared these players out of quarantine, come up with the better precautions, as they said here, and really hammer down having backup players? Because the reason these games aren't happening isn't because there's COVID cases or quarantine players. It's because they don't have enough players. And why is the G League doing a bubble? I still don't understand this. These are dozens and dozens of players that could be in reserve. The Maine Red Claws could be rolling up in Maine right now training. So when the Celtics have 7 players left, you can ship in 5 players. I can't believe that they're doing this stupid G League bubble. I know, like it just makes no sense. There's no money to be
Right.
made. It's an expense.
I think that sucks. That's the worst thing you're going to do is basically
the entire
So
integrity
you'd
of the
rather
league.
have no team for a week?
the NBA.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I would rather have no
Yeah.
basketball for a week than watch 7. No offense to anyone on the main red class. It's just you can't crown an NBA champion if half the games are being played with G leaguers. You just can't. It's going
Well,
to
right now, half
asterisk
the
on the season.
games aren't being played. Period. I like you.
But Bob,
Either
you know,
guys-
They will
it's gonna
be.
affect the
They will
record.
be,
It's gonna
right?
affect the record.
How is that fair? I mean, how is that fair to a team if they, whatever, a few of their players are down, and now all of a sudden they have to play 5 games with the main Red Claws roster, and that goes on their record, and maybe they missed the playoffs, or maybe they are screwed out of a certain seed, or maybe it happens in the playoffs. I don't know, but like if I'm a fan of a specific team, I would much rather say, hey guys, take the week off, get healthy, and come back with the roster that you spent all this money on and that you've mortgaged your future on in some cases, and you're trying to win games. It's pretty short-sighted to say, oh, let's power through it. The NFL could power through it. They have 1 game a week. NBA and NHL can't do that. I mean, yeah, if you want to plug in a 1 or 2 guys, that's fine. I mean, that's end of, they don't end up playing the court. But if you need to do a situation like the Celtics are in, where you're relying on players who aren't ready to be in the NBA to win games for you, I just don't think that's fair. And at the end of the season,
The
now you have an
fairness is out the window. The Raptors are in Tampa. The Sixers just had to play with a guy named Dakota and Tyrese Maxey leading the way for 2 games against the Nuggets and a Hawks team that are very good teams. So, like, the fairness is out the window here.
It's not completely out the window, but it would be if
I think
what
it's
you
pretty
want
far
happens.
out the window.
But if it continues, yeah, I think it's out the window. And also when you factor in teams that we're talking about ultimately affecting their record, and maybe a game or 2 or 3 keeps you out of the playoffs because of that stretch. And at the end of the day, what were we going to get? These lopsided games that we were getting, or better yet, the players not being able to because of they didn't necessarily test positive for COVID itself. To wipe out 6-7 players night after night, I think it's better you postpone it and you make up those games on the back end. Do they realistically make up every single game? Probably not, but at least you'll get a better representation of the record at the end of that. Because you're not going to be able to think about, well, what about those 2 weeks where they were dropping games left and right because they didn't have their guys and they were up against a team that did or had the majority of them.
Yeah, it's I don't want to see the G League.
You guys are so excited to see Aaron Nesmith lead the way.
It's an experiment. Sink or swim. I wanted to see it for 1 game.
I want to see 1 Aaron Nesmith. I don't want to see 8.
I'm pretty happy they banged out 3 games.
Between Tremont, Nesmith, and Taco, Celtics were pretty much down in the G League at that point. You don't want to go much deeper than that, but that's where we are. I'd rather have something going than no games. All of a sudden, you're rescheduling games. Like, this isn't easy for other teams at the end there either. Where are all these games going to go?
So this is first place. I thought you'd be happy.
They only
first place.
Great.
All right, let's move on.
How's Tatum going to look when he's back from this? I don't know.
So that's the one thing. I'm not going to be alarmist over it. I hate not having heard anything about he's doing fine. This guy's asymptomatic. Nothing's going on. You want to?
I'm pretty sure both were asymptomatic.
Yeah, but I want you see those percentage of people who are like, yeah, it's really bad. I had a tough time breathing for months, or my heart exploded. Those are rare cases, but I mean, we saw it locally with Eduardo Rodriguez and a couple of other athletes and this and that. Like, you don't want your star players getting COVID, even if 20-year-olds have largely been able to avoid any sort of both symptoms and long-term effects off it. Like, it sucks having this theoretically running through the team. So it's not something you want to see happen. So I'm hoping, for the best here, but I'm definitely a tad concerned.
Rob especially. I mean, didn't he have some sort of blood flow? Rob had some sort of blood flow condition that he was dealing with coming into the league too. So you get worried when you start to hear those things. And that's we haven't even touched on that. The league keeps saying that there's no condition where they stop this. Are they just waiting for someone to collapse on the floor like college basketball?
When the Florida guy did, I was like, this is going to be bad for all sports. And amazingly, it didn't happen.
It didn't. It's not going to be a problem until either something like that happens or there's, an entire slate of games can't be played, when it's 12 teams, double digits, I think once it reaches that point, you have to, because it's going to be ridiculous.
You bring up a good point, John. Yeah. Well, what could be the lasting effect on this, on Tatum, on Rob, on everybody in this league who ends up with it for years to come?
Right.
That's what they're playing with.
Let's not go there because we have no idea what we're talking about when we talk about any sort of effects. So.
Well, neither does the league. I mean, no one knows that. So that's what they're playing with.
Then, I mean, you could say that about anything. I mean, shut down the country, I guess, or shut down the world because we don't know what's going to happen in 2 years. You can't. So it's their at the end of the day, it's their decision to play. No one's making them play. And it's
Jimmy, can't I be worried? Can't I be worried for Jason? He's only 19. We're worried.
You could be worried, but let's not be like, oh, well, what's going to happen in 4 years?
I'm not saying shut the league down. They're just a better plan.
Okay.
The plan right now isn't working. Can we all agree on that? Like this just isn't working.
It just is what it is. It was this.
Yeah.
It is. It's not a plan. It just is going to happen this way. You know.
There's no. You can't play basketball without getting within 6 feet of somebody, unless you're James Harden, I guess, right?
And you're only as clear
40-footer
as the you're only as safe as the least responsible idiot on your team. You know,
right?
Like
that's the other thing.
That's the thing. I'm amazed the NFL made it through the season because you're talking about 50, 60 people plus the coaches and the training staff. The amount of people in the orbit of an NFL team can be, I mean, you go down there for training camp. Okay. The training camp roster would have 90 dudes on it, 15 trainers, 20 something coaches, PR staff. It's 100 and something people all just mixing in with one another.
Media, fans.
Job segmenting them this year and keeping them apart. Scouts, trainers, everybody was apart. And it was an outdoor sport, which helped. Basketball, it's smaller, but it's still, you're as safe as the dumbest person on your team, you know? Who goes and does whatever the hell they want and then kind of walks in around all of you guys, and that's it.
Yep.
Well, we gotta consider too. A lot of these guys that are out right now are in contact tracing. Like all these guys that are out don't have it, and that could be a preventative measure that actually helps us from getting worse down the line here. My bigger issue isn't about guys being out, isn't about games getting postponed. It's that they didn't have backup players ready to go. Bigger rosters at the very least. I think that's what they're going to have to do here to make this a little more sustainable. Because my biggest problem is when a team like the Celtics gets shut down for a week here, like, you know, Jimmy's talking about fair. That's just not fair. All of a sudden you're ramping guys up again and, you know, trying to get back into the flow of things after a week. Like that's not a season to me. But, you know, we'll see what adjustments they make. So far, no more high-fiving before games, no more hugging after games, and that's what you get there. Oh, and you can't have visitors in the room either. Why was that a thing before?
No more hugging, guys.
Yeah.
Good. Jeez. Act like you want to beat the other guy for once.
Gordon Hayward ruled out with a hip injury. Strained hip, they said. But whatever. Ruled out for the
rest. Flexor.
Celtics curse. He said that thing last night, I'm telling you. He
was mean.
It was a shot. It was a shot at the Celtics.
He was just mean.
That just means T-Row.
Tenure with the Celtics. Let's just call it what it is.
T-Row goes for 50.
Bad luck, okay? It was bad luck. It was nothing personal. It was nothing, you know, it wasn't anybody's fault. It was just bad luck. That's what they'll read in the textbook, you know, 30 years from now.
Should they have traded him for Turner? I don't know.
That might be a footnote in that chapter. No, I'm just kidding.
Andy's looking good.
I
thought I heard Miles Turner was a defensive force last night. Is that true?
All season. Right now, I'm hearing he's second in Defensive Player of the Year conversation.
Oh my God, Bobby with the biggest apology cam of all time if that happens.
With which one? Turner,
Defensive Player of the Year.
Oh man.
What's going to be great?
But he stinks. He can't shoot.
They acquire him.
We get Bobby a jersey, a Miles Turner jersey. He has the Rocket.
That's the tough that you keep joking about that, John. They probably couldn't get him right now the way he's playing. 44 blocks in 11 games. I mean, the production's been through the roof on the defensive end for them.
I want every Celtics fan and reporter
game
on apology cam then, if that's the case.
You got a point for right now. We'll let it develop some more as it continues. But your takes from the preseason are looking good, Jimmy.
It's still early.
Rated Miles Turner, maybe something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, wasn't I the Miles Turner guy? Anyway.
Yeah, you were anti a lot of people.
It's tough to tell you and Jimmy apart sometimes.
John, you were
riding on the same highway.
We were. John was more like it's okay
You're
to
like,
be 17.
you're like any-
That was his main.
I was miles over Tristan.
You were miles over.
Yeah, you were. Yep.
From the
so
jump.
So was I. Yep. That's
So
correct.
anyway, just to recap, because we're going to wrap it up. We've been on an hour. Nets acquire Harden. Nobody knows where Kyrie is. So they're soon going to be teammates. And
Look out for
the
the by the way, real quick, that's going to happen. Watch, Kyrie's going to drop something soon. You'll see.
Oh, Kyrie's going to be like, I've been here the whole time, and it's awesome, and we're bros, and he's going to pretend nothing happened.
Yeah. Oh my God. He's like you said. He's gonna spin it and he's gonna blame everybody else, and everyone else is gonna feel like an idiot by the end of
Everyone's
the interview.
Blah blah blah. You know, I know what's real, and people don't know what's real.
You darn pawns. Tired of you pawns.
It's what we have here, you know, and whatever.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, basketball, you know, it's like just the greatest like drama show compared to any other professional league. Like it doesn't even come close.
Awesome.
Like you can't predict this stuff. It's like every season
president got impeached and Harden
storylines
trending topic. My timeline was 80% Harden, 20% we just impeached the president.
Dropped at the same exact time.
Right, exactly.
Identical timing. Everyone's like, oh, fuck it, we knew that. Harden, though.
It's crazy.
This is legit crazy what's happening here.
The way that escalated in 3 days was pretty wild, though. It was over the course of 4 games.
Oh my God!
His production just went out the window.
From this country to this league, man.
Oh my God!
This league.
What? The president? No, Harden.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I bet Harden wishes he did it earlier. Just had that 90-second presser that sent the GM running to the trade tables after 10 games now.
He showed up. I love the announcer though, James Harden with a pregame meal, but like
that was Channing Frye, and yeah.
But I mean, my God, he showed up looking again just the way he did. But those 4 games in a row, 15 points, 16 points, 20 points, he was just like, guys, I'm mailing it in here. Is anybody paying attention? And finally, he's like, all right, screw it. I'm just literally going to say it. You know, I'm just going to say it. You're not getting it. You're not getting the picture. So he goes to the table and he's like, I hate all of you. You know,
the situation can't be
and that was it. And then they're like, okay, I guess trade him then. So
yeah, wow. Talk about forcing your hand.
Yeah. All right. So let's wrap it up. We've got maybe a game on Friday. And if that's that, we'll talk about it. If not, we might jump on here once more this week and let you know what's going on. If somebody locates Kyrie, maybe we'll do something there. So expect to hear from us again later this week in some form or another. We will see if there's any news. Obviously, if there's anything as far as the Celtics go, dominoes fall here. Maybe we get a clearer picture of what they might do because, again, everyone's mind immediately here goes, a bunch of teams made a trade. When are we going to make a trade? So, again, you got it?
No, I was going to say one thing. We didn't mention this, but are we all on the same page? I know we are. That we're glad that the Celtics didn't trade for James Harden, right? We're all we're all there.
You know
me.
There. Okay. I told you I would have retired from this show and stopped watching basketball this year.
You know the way I looked at it, guys, and I'm glad you brought that up, Jimmy, because John, the fact that the Celtics now, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, have an opportunity to knock off 2 top 5 guys in the best of 7 series. Like they've never done it. They haven't. The Celtics just haven't been able to do that yet, and it's going to be a huge challenge. But I'm excited for it. I would prefer it this way, and I think Danny Ainge is too.
I wish the Celtics could have somehow been the Cleveland in this trade, picking up Jared Allen out of the fold. I don't know how the line up there, but that would have been interesting.
I think Danny was monitoring this thing for a while, but if there was something there, he would have. And yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking more of along the lines of maybe Gordon or someone like that. But,
I was wondering whether the lines would have been if Kemba can be included in a money push somewhere else, it gets you a player that you would rather have. And
I'm holding out on Kemba. I am.
Right,
like I said,
you don't have a choice.
Me, I sold my shares in the preseason. I'm on record.
Yeah.
Sold them in the playoffs last year. Get out of here.
I sold them early.
Sold them in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, I did. I sold them early. So
I'm holding on to.
Okay. So good. That's the one thing we have to look for. Look, and that is exciting, and that is a bummer with these games canceled. We might have gotten to see him, but hopefully we'll see him soon, and then we can decide what we think.
If they make up these games on the back end, then those are games that you would theoretically have Kemba Walker for that you wouldn't have had him for if they reschedule them. So who knows? Maybe it's a good thing in the long run.
Yeah. So Celtics, I mean, again, you don't want COVID running, but they dodged a bullet by having this many people sit and not able to play because these would have been all losses. And then you get Kemba more time to heal. So, yeah, theoretically, he misses fewer games overall. So that's probably a good thing. So that's going to wrap it up. Jimmy Toscano, Bobby Manning, CLNS Media, and Celtics blog, Josue Pavone, Heavy.com, CLNS Media. We will see you guys later this week.